This is Suzanne Kinney, and you're listening to the Crime and Canvas podcast. In our last episode, episode 13, we discussed the imperial shopping list and the $3 billion Harvard clause. Today, in episode 14, if you know the Isabella Stewart Gardner story, you know that 14 was Isabella's signature. She was born on the 14th. She branded her museum with 14 flowers. But today, the number 14 stands for something else. It stands for the restoration of a woman's word in a world that has spent 36 years trying to edit it. But for 36 years, one flower has been missing. Not a painting, but a principle. Today, we plant the 14th flower, the truth. Isabella Stewart Gardner didn't just build a museum, she built a time capsule. But more than that, she built a child. In 1865, Isabella lost her only son, Jackie, to pneumonia. He was only 21 months old. The grief didn't just break her heart, it nearly took her life. She was depressed, suicidal, and lost in the shadows of a motherhood that had been cut short. When her doctor suggested her husband Jack take her to Europe to save her, she didn't just find art, she found a reason to breathe. She poured the love she had for her lost son into every canvas, every stone, and every flower. Fenway Court was her only child. That is why her will is so world famous and so ironclad. She decreed that Fenway Court was to remain exactly as she left it, frozen since 1924. Every painting, every chair, every piece of lace was a part of a deliberate aesthetic vision. But there is a detail the history books often gloss over. Isabella's son, Jackie, died on March 15th. For Isabella, the days leading up to March 18th weren't just a week in the spring, they were her annual time of mourning. When those thieves entered the museum on March 18th, 1990, they were violating a mother's sanctuary just 3 days after the anniversary of her son's death. They didn't just steal art, they desecrated a memorial during her most sacred week. She wasn't just protecting a building, she was protecting her legacy. She knew that eventually the institutions would try to monetize and manipulate her legacy. So, to protect it, she did something brilliant. She inserted what we call a poison pill. It is a forfeiture clause that states clearly if the trustees ever significantly alter the museum or move the collection, the entire trust, the building, the endowment, and every masterpiece is forfeited. The whole thing goes to Harvard University. Isabella knew greed would come for her legacy. The poison pill wasn't a mistake, it was a defense mechanism. In 2012, the gatekeepers danced around this pill, claiming modernization was for the good of the art. But in 1990, the thieves left the empty frames, and in the years since, the trustees broke the will. You cannot claim to protect a museum while you're busy protecting the people who plundered it with a commissioned heist. When the board chose to protect a billionaire's imperial shopping list instead of the truth, they triggered the pill. I do want to mention that I did state in previous episodes I thought David Koch ordered the Isabella heist, but now after finding the imperial shopping list that we discussed in episode 13, I believe these heists were done for Frederick himself. And this month, March, is Women's History Month. And yet, for 36 years, we've protected the reputations of men like Anthony Moore, John Olson, and the Koch family, while Isabella's will was ignored. They have monetized her tragedy, selling books and mystery, while the masterpieces sat in private mansions. Think about the contrast. On one side, you have the last will and testament of a visionary woman. On the other side, you have a security director signing "Hey, would you blow me" to silence a whistleblower. That isn't just a joke, it's a confession of incompetence. They thought they could bully a nobody from Florida because they assumed no one was standing up for Isabella herself. They were wrong. The final word, Isabella's will, is her final word. It's time to stop the monetization of empty frames. Harvard University, the keys are sitting on the table. The fiduciary breach is documented. The Heywood mask is off. You don't have to take the inheritance. You just have to stop letting the people who lost it pretend they're still in charge. The multi-billion transfer to Harvard isn't a penalty, it's the execution of Isabella's own law. We aren't just looking for art anymore, we're enforcing a will. Isabella, your home is being returned to the truth. I'm Suzanne Kenny. This is episode 14. The frames are empty, but the will is full. Join me as we walk through the door Isabella left unlocked for us. We're building a movement. The nobodies are finding their voice. My mother, Mary, turned 83 years old on January 31st, 2026. We force the system to listen by finding a legal threat it cannot ignore. This moment, where one woman's determination can trigger a multi-billion-dollar legal and institutional reckoning, is the final victory over the wall of silence. Now, Harvard University just has to pull the final trigger. Please stand with the nobodies, stand with the history of Boston, stand with my mother Mary, and stand with Isabella. Visit crimeandcanvaspodcast.com to read the timeline for yourself, sign the petition, and remember, if you're going through a similar struggle, if you have a voice that needs to be heard, visit uhv.news. I started uhv.news because every voice matters. It's a place I created for others going through similar struggles or taking time to praise someone in their community. Thank you for joining me on the Crime and Canvas podcast. This is Suzanne Kenny. I'm grateful for your time and your willingness to hear this story. Let's always remember the truth is still the truth, even if no one believes it. Suzanne is the wheel. Hear me squeak.